What's going on, family? Thanks so much for joining us again on a Tuesday. Welcome back. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I had a great weekend, and just want to go ahead and get right into it. This is part four of the Relationship League. I'm going to close it out with y'all today on this one, and I titled this "The League of Extraordinary Marriages." A lot of times there's so much focuses on the marriages that are failing that there's not enough focus on the marriages that are, and so um, I don't have a couple to interview today, but I plan to do that in the near future. But if we get around to it, usually when they're asking questions, people pretty much want to know, like, what is the secret sauce? Like, how is it that you've been married 30 years, 40 years, 50 years? And they always come up with some good wisdom. So, based on things that I've seen, couples that I've witnessed, I just pulled up a few things that I wanted to share that I think is kind of the secret sauce to why they have an extraordinary marriage. Not perfect, but it's just kind of extraordinary. And so there is a such thing as an extraordinary marriage. But for those of you that are watching, especially those that are married, it also depends on you. It depends on how the two of you journey together. So my hope is that within this last and final episode, for those who are married and those who want to get married, you kind of can glean from some of the content that I'm going to share today. All right. So, of course, it says, and the two shall become one. But is it really that simple? It's really not, fam. It's really not. But it's very possible. And so God has a tendency of calling something that He wants done to be done, right? But as human beings, if He says it, it's going to happen and it's going to be done. But for marriages, the human part of that is that, we have to still process through that. And there are three things I wanted to share with you on maybe how to go about doing that. So, three things that in marriages, husbands and wives must do if they're going to be successful, be extraordinary, is just these three simple things. You need to know, act, and be. If you're going to be one, you need to know, act, and be. And so, what am I saying? What is Marvin saying? What is he saying? So, let's just break it down. Know, of course, you want to know him first. I mean, if you don't know God, then how do you expect your marriage to be as successful? Now, don't get me wrong. I know there are people who don't believe and they have successful marriages. I'm not talking to those people, but I'm just saying for those of us that believe, you have to know if you're going to do this thing and make it all the way to the end, you kind of have to know Him. Not just know God, but you also need to know yourself. So there's a saying that you may have heard growing up in history. It says, "To thine own self be true." You do. You need to kind of be true to yourself, real with yourself, and know what you are. Know what you are, why you are, and where you're going. And so that's a part of a knowing. That's a part of a knowing if you're going to know, be, and act and be successful in a marriage and have an extraordinary marriage, you do have to know yourself. Thirdly, you need to know your spouse. Now, husbands, that's a continual journey. You're never going to know your spouse. From Genesis to Revelations, even if you get to Revelations, there's still going to be something that you're going to have to know or learn to know about your spouse. Wives as well. As in our marriages, we want to be learning each other, and that's a journey. It's a journey of oneness that is a great journey. It's not always an easy journey, but it's worth it because you know if you're not being intentional about growing together, then you will grow apart. So unfortunately, marriages, they don't always last, and sometimes you hear them say, "Well, we just grew together. We just grew apart," and I'm just like, "Well, you grew apart because maybe you weren't intentional about growing together." So let's be intentional about growing together. And so knowing or to know, you want to know your spouse so that as you guys are journeying this life together, you guys get to know each other. It's just like how we are made up, soul, body, and spirit. You want to know your spouse, soul, body, and spirit. And it's not that you just found your soul mate. You're choosing to mate your souls with your spouse. So you're mating your soul, like the two of you are coming together, and you're like, yes, we are. That's my mate. I'm choosing to mate myself with this person. Okay. And then of course, soul, body. So that the body part that's access with responsibility. So when you marry someone, you now get access to them, but there's responsibility to that. There's responsibility with how you talk to them, how you treat them, how love on them, how you communicate. There's responsibility. And then, for husbands with a wife, you have to make sure you're being responsible enough so that you understand how she journeys through the decades when there's no children, when the children come, when the children leave. there's something that you have to pay attention to, because that's all a part of your responsibility as a husband. So the Bible says to dwell with her according to knowledge. As you continue to learn more about your wife and you become more knowledgeable about who she is, what she is, then it just makes you a better husband. And ladies, of course, you want to do the same things. You want to know your husband, in every sense of the word. And then spiritually, as long as the two of you are connected to him, then it just makes that spiritual connection that you and your spouse have all the more better. The next one is act, right? So we said know, act, and be. Let's talk about acting. To be simple, just act according to what you know. I would say, obviously you have to know his word, and you want to know your spouse, and then you also want to maintain the agreement that the two of you have made with each other. And so you're just going to act like you know. I mean, it's that simple. I'm not trying to make this rocket science, but extraordinary marriages, they do the basic things over and over again. It takes 21 days to create a habit. It also takes 21 days to break a habit. If you make a habit of acting what you know and moving on to things that you know that's going to be profitable for you and your spouse, you cannot lose. And so, of course, there's a saying, as the Bible says, how can two walk together except they be in agreement? And so, if you're not acting in agreement, you're not going to walk in agreement, and you're not going to be successful in agreement. Third thing is be. And so, if you're going to be, you just being yourself, walk as you are right now. It's very easy to get caught up with trying to shoot on to the next thing, and you want to get to the next level and all of that. But I remember a friend of mine who was in the military, he said, be where your feet is. So where are your feet now? And at what stage of your marriage are the both of you are now? Be there. If it's great, great. If it's not so great, be there and learn from it, because it's not that it's meant there so much to harm you, but it is there to meant to teach you and to help you and your spouse be better. So be where your feet is, and you're not competing against any other marriage. You're only competing against yourself. You should always be endeavoring to do better, to become a better version of yourself. And as you become a better version as yourself as a husband, then you get to show up differently for your wife. Wives, the same things. If you're choosing to become a better version of yourself, then the way you show up for your husband, he's getting the best version of you. And the two of y'all together, that's awesome. But it's not you comparing how your marriage is to their marriage, because you don't know what it took for them to get there, and you don't know what it's going to take for them to get to the next stage. And so you and your spouse are separate, unique to each other, and you get to walk this journey with each other. So you can't really gauge yourself to someone else's relationship. Remember, the goal is to get from I do to well done. If you're getting to well done, then that makes you extraordinary. That means that you guys have done it. That means you guys have walked together in agreement, and then you guys have moved through the moments of disagreements where you guys were able to get to the other side of that thing. Like I said, it's not going to be a very, it's not going to always be simple, it's not going to always be easy. But if you're intentional about moving forward and getting to the other side, there's nothing that you and your spouse cannot accomplish and gain and get through. Okay? That's the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. The ordinary people, they're just going to quit. The extraordinary people is going to decide, no, we're going to get through this. We're going to communicate better. We're going to love better. And then we're going to live better. Okay? And so let's talk about, on the road. Obviously, so when we think about a road, I'm going to pull up a picture. Yes, I'm going to do an illustration. So we can all agree that this is a picture of a road, right? In your marriage, in your relationship, you're going to be on a road together. On highways and different roads, what do you have on there? You have exits, you have rest stops, you have detours. A lot of times when I'm traveling, I may run into traffic. In your relationship, there's going to be traffic. There's going to be bumps in the road, around the road. There's going to be new construction. There's going to be construction that seems to just make the traffic go even slower. There's going to be reroutes. There's going to be weather. There's going to be whether that's good, whether that's bad. And then, of course, there's night and day. And so while you're in this relationship, you're going to have these moments where you may have to take a rest stop and rest and reconnect with each other, reconnect with God, and make sure, wait a minute, what is the destination? I thought we were going here, which is going to take another hour, but now are we saying we need to go over there, which is going to take 2 hours? And so rest stops are meant to have those conversations so that, you can reconvene and kind of get your bearings. When you actually are doing that rest stop, you go into the bathroom, you're taking care of some human things, and then sometimes maybe checking the tires, make sure that everything is good and work in order so that as you get back on the road, you know that the vehicle is good. The same thing is should be in your relationships. When you're on the road to becoming one, you have to have rest stop moments. You're going to have moments where there's going to be new construction. There's going to be new levels of communication, new levels of how you guys handle money, new levels of how you make love, new levels of how you guys navigate now with children. If you go to part 3, I talked about a lot of things about the different stages from year 1 to 5, 5 to 10. Go back, listen to it. It'll be good. But there's construction, and then with construction, there's always a reroute. And so when something is changing in your marriage and there has to be a reroute, it doesn't change the destination. The destination is still the same. You just how you're going to get there may be a little different. If you're anticipating that, then you won't be so rattled by it. And depending on the type of processor you are, you can process that whether it's fast, slow, verbally, or non-verbally. But the two of you can determine, you know what, we're going to get it to our destination. Also, there's weather. Obviously, in a car, when it starts to rain, you use your windshield wipers. And so, what weather comes into your marriage that may actually cause you to slow down? And so, harsh fellowships, harsh startups, these are weather events in your relationship that you may need to, take the wipers so that you can see clearly. It's so much rain, it's so much, debris coming to your windshield that really what's happening is your lens and your perspective may be off. So a question I may have for you is, in your marriage, is it possible that your perspective may be a little off because there's so much weather events that's happening? There's just too much rain. It's pouring down raining and you can't quite see clearly. You need to kind of clear your windshield. And here's a cheat code. If you clear your windshield, don't so much clear it just so that you can see where they're wrong. Clear your windshield to see where you may need to be, where you are wrong or where you need to make the adjustment. If you clear out the view of yourself first and get a perspective of how you may show up differently, then it's not necessarily you coming into the conversation with you did this and you did that. And there's a way to do that, but that's another live for another day. And so as you're dealing with weather events, both good weather and bad weather, but especially the bad weather, you want to really slow down enough so that you can understand what is really happening here. Why is there a storm? I've heard somebody say you're either going into a storm, in a storm, or coming out of a storm. So in your marriage, you can ask each other, what is this storm that we are experiencing right now? And that's a rest stop moment. You can actually be saying, you know what, we're not getting off the highway completely. We're just getting off to do a rest stop. Now, sometimes you do need to exit and there needs to be a pause. There needs to be a pause for the cause. You need to exit and take a vacation together. Sometimes you need to exit and read a book. Sometimes you need to exit and just regroup and refuel. Sometimes you need to exit, go to sleep at night, and wake up the next day and get started. I'm talking about these arguments that come, and I know the Bible says, do not let the sun go down in your wrath, but sometimes you need to take an exit from the moment so that you can pray and refuel and figure out what is it that I need to do forward. Okay? And so these things are necessary. This is just the road. You're literally on the road together. You can't drive two cars going in the same direction as one. Now you can do that, but are you one? Are you joined together? You know what I'm saying? That both of you are in the vehicle going to the same destination. Why would you want to do that in two cars? No, get in one car, drive, and get to where you need to go. You both have a driver's license, right? When you guys got married, you guys got a what? Marriage license. And so that means that both of you have been looked at from the state to say that you guys now have a license to live as one and you got the paperwork to prove it. In your marriage, you both have a driver's license based on the destination of where you two are going collectively. You both know how to navigate because, I would hope you wouldn't marry somebody that does not know how to navigate. They need to know where they're going. While you were dating, you ask questions. Well, where do you think you're going to be in 5 years? Well, what do you want to do in life? That was you trying to figure out what their navigation was like, the ability to be able to navigate from here to there, from point A to point B. A woman will look to say, okay, well, where are you financially? Where were you financially a year ago? And where are you now? What is your credit score now? Same things. This is a conversation that happens on both sides because you're trying to determine, does this person know how to navigate life? And when they have hard moments, how do they navigate through those seasons? How do they navigate? This is all in the dating stuff. If you go back to the call to the altar, I talk about this. But in marriage, like I said, this is the major leagues. This is the league of relationships where you are in the major leagues and you are now playing on the field, and it's not time for practice. It's go time. And so remember that you know how to navigate. And also, you both, while you're on this road, you'll both have to help each other out. Somebody may say, for those of us who don't use Waze or, certain GPS, you remember back in the day, you had the paper. Somebody may need to say, hey, look, you need to, get into the right lane because they can see traffic up ahead or they can see something going on up ahead. That's how you help each other out. There's something that your wife can see that husbands you can't. Your wives can see your blind spot. You know what I'm saying? They can see your blind spot. And a lot of times they're giving you wisdom. So if you're not being resistant, they'll help to navigate you in a direction and you get to the destination probably faster if you just listen. Don't be the husband that doesn't want to ask for directions and your wife knows, I just wish he would just listen to me. Don't do that. And look, I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I've been in a situation where my wife shared something with me and I didn't quite listen and it resulted in what it resulted in. And so, but that's everybody's marriage. Husbands, you're going to make mistakes where you may not hear. Wives, the same thing. Sometimes your husband is saying, look, I don't know how I feel about that. And you just want to be strong in your conviction and you go for it and then it kind of blows up. So let's not do that. Y'all here to help each other, okay? So when God speaks and declares something, he considers it done. So when he considers it done, it's done. But, us as humans, we get exhausted. And when we get to our wits' end, sometimes we say we're done. We're just like, you know what, I'm done. Unfortunately, when you hear some marriages end, they say, I'm just done. I'm just done. I don't want to deal with it no more. I'm tired of his mess. I'm tired of her mess. And I'm just done. So I don't want you to be done. I don't want you to get to the point where you're saying I'm done. I want you to be one. So in your marriage, don't be done. Decide that you're going to be one and you're going to stay one. If you look at the word done, you spell it out, D-O-N-E. If you take the D out, it says one. So why don't you, instead of saying I'm just done, why don't you decide to be one? Let's just change the meaning of the word done. And let's just say we're just going to decide to be one. Bible said that I pray that they will be one as I am one. Just like the way God is one with his Father, he wants the two of you in your marriage to be one. It says what? And the two shall become one, right? God is looking at you to be one, act one, know that you're one. What I say earlier, know, act, and be. If you're doing those things, you're in the extraordinary realm. You are doing, you're not just being normal, you're being greater than normal. And then if you have God, then he knows how to put his super on your natural. So the things that you don't think that you can do in your marriage, he'll give you the ability to do that and you'll be extraordinary. They'll call you power couples, right? Because they see power. They see something that the two of you are doing that they're just like, wow. I mean, how was they able to do that? How were they able to just get 5 miles in 2 minutes as opposed to 5 miles in a half an hour? Now, nobody can do 5 miles of walking in 2 minutes, but you can do 5 miles if you're in a car. So it's almost like that whole being in a car it allows you to supernaturally move a lot faster than a person that's walking. Because literally you're using a mechanism to help you get from point A to point B. So as I leave, being in the league of an extraordinary marriage is not easy, right? But it is possible. It's possible if you do it in him and as he is with us, everybody that's connected to us will be blessed for all. And so again, this is the purpose for why I'm doing this page, Becoming One, because it's all about us being connected to God. in our relationships, in our marriages, but becoming one in Him, with us, and for all. And so I hope that this was good for you. I hope that this reached you. Go back and listen to the other three, because it almost kind of leads up to what I'm talking about right now. And, you know, um, go back, listen to it, have a conversation with your spouse, your significant other, because the goal is for you to get from I do to well done. All right. So I hope that that blessed you, and I will see you next week. God bless you, and have a good night.